It's one of the world's rarest aviation stories. The plane ran out of fuel while flying at an altitude of 12,000 meters. Two engines suddenly stopped working in the sky. The dust 767, the giant begins to plunge like a roller coaster. And worse. Underneath it, now the runway has turned into a racetrack. Hundreds of people are dying. What's going to happen next? 1 minute big mistake, the technicians harm, and the crew get repaired. To find out more right now, please join us on Flight 143 of Canadian International Airlines, or it's also called a very special name, Kinley Roller Coaster. Sixam, Ottawa, Canada International Airport. This is a 767 model. The new plane was flown by Air Canada. It has been in operation since September 1981. It's a dragon-bodied airplane, Boeing's first two engines. At the same time, it was also the first aircraft to be used by the company. Cockpit screen display for two pilots and remove the aircraft engineer. It's being stopped today. Check and refueling in preparation for the 3:30 long journey. 2,900 kilometers to the international airport. There were a total of 61 passengers on board and 8 crew members. The captain was 48-year-old Captain Robert Pison. He is an experienced pilot with 15,000 flight hours. That's 5,200 hours on a Boeing 767. He also used to be famous as a glider pilot. Vice flag is Morai Quinto, 36 years old. You've been trained to pilot watercraft at the Gimli while in service with the Canadian Air Force, and now has accumulated a total of 7,000 commercial flight hours. The refueling process of the aircraft, it's still very normal. But O1A found it. How terrible a mistake you made. At this point in time, Canada's aviation industry are in the process of switching systems. Data. Boeing 767 was the first plane to be calibrated for lead and kilogram units instead of the gallon and power units of previous planes. In addition, if the previous calculation obligation and load management, refueling, it's going to be done by an aircraft engineer. In the Boeing 767, Canada has minimized the double. Only the captain and co-pilot. There will be no engineers, so the pilots have to do this themselves. Take a close look at the parameters below. Captain San calculated. Fuel requirement is 22,300 kilograms to be able to reach There was 7682L of fuel on board. The journey ahead from the axe. Due to the volume of the fuel, the plane will change according to the temperature. And in this case, the volume of 1 L of fuel corresponds to 0.800. So the exact calculation would be the amount of fuel available. 7682L multiplied by 0.804 kilograms per liter will be equal to 6.176 kilograms. Additional volume required. 22.30 kilograms minus 6.176 equals 16.124 kilograms. Corresponding to the necessary additional reconstruction is 16.124 kilograms multiplied by 0.804 kilograms per liter. And that's equal to 20.054 L. But by the mistake of ground engineers, used an incorrect conversion factor of 1.77. This is the mass ratio of 1 liter of fuel power on lead. And the calculation that they did was the amount of fuel available. 7682L multiplied by 1.77 kilograms per liter and equal to 13.597 kilograms. The required additional volume is 22.300 kilograms minus 1,703 kilograms. The required additional achievement is 8.703 kilograms. By 4917L. So in the end, instead of having to load 20.054L of additional fuel, only properly pumped 4.917L. So the total amount of old fuel is 12.599. This means compared to 22,300 kilograms on request, there was only 10,129 kilograms of fuel on board. Although the crew checked back and recalculating over and over again, but by the same mistakes. And add to that, the ground engineer also gave up because he ran out of paper. Finally at 7 a month, fly 143 flights. On the way, with a tank of gas just enough for half the journey. More than an hour after takeoff, the incident began. As the flight was flying over the town of Rolex, Paterio at 41,000 feet, the plane's cockpit warning system suddenly echoed. There's been a fuel pressure problem on the left side of the plane. Flip the maintenance log. The plane's fuel gauge is not working. This happened on a previous flight. So for the crew, it's not something too dangerous. More on the screen of the computer system. Amount of gasoline display still full for the whole flight. But that's in normal circumstances. Every plane has only half the fuel. Then this is a completely different problem. Not long after, fuel pressure dynamics on the left, then the second fuel pressure alarm goes off for the right engine. Realize that the situation has become urgent. Captain Pezon decided to divert to the big airport, and the closest now is This is page 43. We had a problem. Request to be redirected to the airport. A4B, your request has been approved. Turn south and start lowering altitude. After the call with the TAS, the captain also did send a message to the cabin and asked the chief stewardess for the passengers, get ready to land. But the incidents don't stop there. In just a few seconds, the cockpit warning system is back up, with a warning sound that the plane is running out of fuel. Engine on the left and the engine on the right turns off. The captain immediately connected the signal to the station, not staying in Winnip, and asked to prepare the runway for an emergency landing. In a very short period of time, the 767 lost all thrust, and most of the cockpit screens, they don't show any more information. Captain Person and co-pilot Quinto realize that you are in a situation that they've never faced, or maybe even trained before. By the 1983, the control of an airplane with 2 engines shut down. There's never been a precedent. Worse due to Boeing 767. It was one of the first planes. Use of electronic flight equipment systems. Operation thanks to the electricity generated by an airplane's jet engine. So there's only engine loss and lack of fuel. Most of the pilot's equipment also lost power, including the plane's radar feedback unit. ATC was unable to give quick instructions, and the most accurate is 143. Instead, the ground staff had to use the formula. Position of Model 767. Very lucky in the meantime, were the hydraulic system, the backbone of the aircraft. It's also almost disabled. A ram gas turbine equipped on Model 767 was automatically deployed and improved the problem. However, for the later landing of the plane, it's going to be detrimental and difficult for the pilot. Face a series of challenges. How will the crew deal with it? Captain Pazan, calm down, have the plane descend to 35,000 feet for maximum range. And there's as many landing site options as possible. He was forced to control the 767 with optimal sliding speed. Remember, the captain was a glider pilot? He's familiar with flying techniques. They've almost never been trained or used in commercial flight. And so we're using our experience. He came up with the best solution for 767. Adjust the plane to a speed of 410 kilometers per hour. During this flight level period, the co-pilot suddenly realized an airport could be much closer. An airbase has closed, where you were trained while in service with the Royal Air Force. How far is our ATC from Winnip? Right now we're wanting to redirect to Kinley. Please give us the most accurate distance. How parents make their teeth. However, note that it only has 2 tables that are 2,200 meters long. A lot shorter than the long table line in Minif. There is not enough emergency services. And I can't contact their control tower either. When this problem hasn't been solved, other difficulties come to the table. The plane is losing altitude. It's going down 2,000 feet every minute. If you let this continue, without making a decision soon, the Boeing 767 will crash. By his own right, the co-pilot began to map out the options. After a period of stress, you finally come up with estimates that the plane can only fly more than 20 miles. And up to this point, their distance to Winnip is up to 33 Jiang. The Gimli is only 12. I guess I immediately made my decision. Get the plane diverted to the Gimli. Outside the cabin, after the abnormal movements of the plane, the guests started to get nervous. Some people are even prepared for the worst. Write down the last words on a piece of paper that they can find. The flight attendants still guide them. Carry out emergency procedures, although they themselves don't know what's going to happen. Whether the plane landed safely on the glass pin. When the altitude drops to 8,500 feet, planes start approaching the runway at Gimli. In the absence of a motor, the crew used gravity to land the lander and lock it in place. Beeson realized they were flying too high and fast. And if you don't adjust in time, they'll go beyond the airport. Right now, the plane's speed was reduced to 300 kilometers per hour. Reduced power generated by the reaming bin. This makes the plane more difficult to control. The lack of hydraulic pressure has prevented the expansion of the shale, something that in normal conditions, it will slow down the speed of the plane and increase the lift factor of the wings, help the plane land safely. In addition, it seems to be broken. The gates were not closed and was blown out by the wind. In case of emergency, the captain and co-pilot considered make a 360-degree rotation. But now it's too late. They're going to hit the ground before they get back on the runway. The more complicated problem is, the 143 crew couldn't have expected that. Part of the airport has been converted into a complex racetrack. You'll call the Gale Motorcycle Park. Right next to the runway, there's a car race going on. And around it, a lot of families have come to cheer and camp. With the death of both engines, the plane doesn't make any noise at all. So the people on the ground, I didn't get any warning. The plane is about to land. And only when the plane gets too close, it was then that they discovered a giant mass of iron. Weighing 132 t is plunging. People started to run away. But you can still see it through the window. There were two boys on bicycles, within 300 meters of the expected landing point. But they had no choice. As soon as the wheels hit the runway, because it's too dangerous, all his strength to brake, hijacking the plane. Boeing 767 long slide on concrete platform. Two tires explode at the same time. Each plane starts to scratch along the land can. In the center of the plane, creates additional friction force for instantaneous deceleration. This friction force that helped the plane fortunately keep the distance to a minimum and don't hit people around you. 67 minutes out of fuel. 767 with all 69 passengers, and the crew landed without leaving a single round. There's only a few passengers who are mildly ill. Small fire in the nose area was then extinguished by the riders, and the track workers are equipped with fire extinguishers, portable. An emergency landing caused a shock in Himley. Immediately became a national and international focus. Dominated Canada's news coverage for weeks. Given the seriousness of the case, the Canadian Air Safety Commission, forerunner of the Safety Committee, the Modern Transport of Canada, immediately into the investigation. What caused the crash of Flight 143? The error due to the wrong unit has been detected. But it also raises the issue that the fuel warning system will light up. The plane is 45 minutes away. Fuel. But in this case, I don't know why it doesn't work. Until the fuel is completely exhausted. Go through the analysis. The experts, we finally found the crux of the matter. Before the journey to Ottawa, a ground technician has discovered and informed the crew that onboard fuel warning system was not working normally. One of the two fuel tanks was damaged. The technician proceeded to turn off one of the two. The lake will still be safe. And as if to be more careful, they're even going to equip themselves with manual measuring sticks. The flight was completely normal when it arrived at the train. But before the plane continues to take off to F a week, a maintenance worker who rechecked for technical defects and accidentally returned the clock off. And so the FQS system continues to fail. The difference will be obvious if the fuel gauge works, but it's not. And even though it's been clearly stated, the minimum equipment that ensures the takeoff of the aircraft is the departure without heat meter operation material is prohibited. But it seems that 1AI has acknowledged this fact. Even the pilots. Fortunately, the crew's talent atoned for all the blame. However, as a consequence, after Canada's internal investigation, Captain Pazan has been demoted for 6 months. And the Queen's co-pilot has been suspended for 2 weeks for letting it happen. 3 maintenance workers were also suspended. Until 1985. New pilots receiving awards for the first time by the International Air Federation for his outstanding skills and dedication. Quinto Vice Captain won the rank of captain in 1989. Canada in 15. Canada Post has also released a flight anniversary file, 143 of EA Canada, and SIA called it a roller coaster.